Chrissy, let's take a minute to talk about an issue
Mm-hmm.
that was raised to us by Candi,
Mm-hmm.
and she does our real estate closings at her office. And I think that this issue is very important. She asked us to share it with our radio listeners, and I think we should. And that is this: is that when you are buying property, there is a new issue that is coming up that can really turn around and bite you as a buyer of a piece of property, and that is open permits. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so open permits mean that some point in time somebody got a permit to pour a slab for a patio, or a permit to do some electrical, or a permit to build a fence, or a permit
Air conditioning.
you name it, and they never closed that permit out. So now you buy this house, and the previous owner pulled this permit but never closed it out. Now you bought this house. Now you're ready to get another permit to do some other work, and they say, that old permit never got closed out. Well, it's a big deal to close out an old permit. Meaning they got to come back and they got to inspect their work. And if the work wasn't done up to par, you got to redo it. And if the work went beyond the permit, well, now you're really in trouble. Now, as a buyer, you might be thinking, why am I taking on that liability? I'm just an innocent buyer. Well, the contract says two things. Number one, that the seller is obligated to disclose it to you, but they could always say, I forgot. That would be a legal defense, right? But number two, it says you as a buyer, it is up to you to do your own due diligence to find these open permits. So you can't say I'm an innocent buyer, because the contract itself says buyer does due diligence.
Exactly. And open permits, Tom, that's a different than what the title insurance covers.
That's right. If you do a normal closing with a normal title insurance company, they're going to do title insurance for you, but title insurance does not protect you from open permits.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're buying property, our title company, we always check for open permits now, but if you're closing somewhere else, of course, we'd love for you to close with us, Edgewater Title Company. If you're closing somewhere else and you're a buyer, you make sure that your title company is requesting an open permit search to make sure there's nothing there that's going to come back and bite you later on.
Exactly. And furthermore, that who you're buying the property from, they legitimately may not know, because it could have been somebody prior to that.
Yeah.
And now if you're trying to sell your property and there's an open permit, it can be that not about just closing it out, but am I correct? There could be some substantial money that's involved.
Well, the issue we ran into for another client, another buyer, and we didn't close this deal, somebody else closed it, but the open permit was to pour a slab, okay? Well, the old owner of this property, they poured a slab, but then they built a whole porch around it with walls and electrical and a roof and air conditioning. Didn't get permits for all that work. And so now the present owner of the property has got a real issue with unpermitted work and how they're going to get around that.
It's pretty substantial. This is a really, again, important issue that people need to be aware of when they are buying property.
Yeah, and a good reason for you to be represented by a lawyer when
Absolutely.
you're getting around buying property, because
Mm-hmm.
if I'm representing the buyer, I'm going to make sure the open permits are checked out for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.